Famcast Media, bitch.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, persons of all ages, welcome to the most exclusive group in the wrestling community. And now, your hosts, first, from Oahu, Puerto Rico, Macho Rodriguez, and his tag team partner from New Brunswick, Canada, God's Gift, Tyler.
¿Cómo estamos, mi gente? Welcome to another edition of Must Love Wrestling, as we are coming here on another Saturday morning to talk about what happened in professional wrestling this week. And no news is more important than the potential story that will be told to us on Monday night with Seth freaking Rollins. It is breaking news coming out of wrestling that Seth Rollins tore his MCL during his match with Jinder Mahal. And I don't know, man. This is the second time he's injured his knee. I don't know if it's the same exact knee from the Kane match, but this has potential to shake up all of WrestleMania plans. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, this sucks, man. Obviously it sounds like it's not as bad as it could have been. Because it sounds like the ACL's intact. I believe it is the same knee. I don't quote me on that, but I think I read that somewhere. Mm-hmm. And didn't he also have an injury going into the Triple H Mania match where he had to go and have like a little cleanup surgery done or something?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
because there's a lot of people that have critiqued that WrestleMania match a lot.
Well, like, I don't know that he even should have been working, but he was just so determined to be there for that. And then this really sucks. I mean, this is a guy that's been running himself ragged for years.
Yeah.
Just the absolute, I would say he's the workhorse of the company. I mean, I guess it was bound to catch up with him sooner or later. It's unfortunate that it was on such a simple move that he's probably done, 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially what it was a lion salt, and we've seen that without any incident for years and years. It's just you land wrong, and unfortunate. I don't know what we're gonna see Monday night. Is he gonna come out and drop the title?
I think the story can go one of two ways, but I think the one way will piss off the fans, which is
just keeps it.
Yeah, he just keeps the title and doesn't defend it till WrestleMania.
I mean, titles don't need to be defended. We know that.
I mean, that's kind of the way it runs in WWE. We see the United States Championship doesn't get defended a lot. The Intercontinental Championship doesn't get defended a lot. The tag titles don't get defended a lot. I mean, that's just how the company rolls. Rhea Ripley doesn't defend her title a lot. Neither does Io. I mean, WWE makes title matches matter. They don't just put them on a random episode of a show. So if Seth Rollins comments on his injury, says he will be at WrestleMania defending his title, and that's the way they want to do it, that's fine. But they also do have a couple of ways to get out of this right away. I mean, you can have Damien cash in. You can have Damien and Drew McIntyre feud for the World Heavyweight Championship going into WrestleMania. And then Seth Rollins doesn't work until WrestleMania. He continues to cut promos. He continues to cut promos against CM Punk. Him and CM Punk build their story, their animosity towards each other. Now the title's not involved. Now no one else is involved. Maybe Seth Rollins is the reason CM Punk doesn't win the Royal Rumble. I mean, that to me, you just added two stories to WrestleMania. And this also comes on the crux of like PW Insider, Dave Meltzer, Sean Ross Sapp, Sportsopedia, they all announced yesterday that the current plan in place is for Seth Rollins versus CM Punk at WrestleMania. That is where the story's going. So for his knee to be a reason for him to potentially not wrestle this match now, or for him not to defend this championship, it's unfortunate, man. It really is.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong. He's not defending. He was not scheduled to defend at the Rumble.
No, he was not.
Okay. So if we get through that, we get to the Elimination Chamber. Do you think it would be possible for something like him to come in last and just there's only one guy in there and that guy's beat down and he just hits a stomp and gets the pin?
Yeah, I think that would be fine. I mean,
and then that way, then nobody can say, "Well, he hasn't defended it." And
I think what we need to figure out is what Triple H's plans are. Are we doing Seth Rollins versus CM Punk with a heel versus face? Are they going to be face versus face? What are we going to do? Because if Seth Rollins does what you just called, he's going to get a heel reaction. Fans are going to be angry. If he's going to continue to berate Punk, like fans are firmly behind CM Punk. So it looks like that's the main story.
Right. What if? Sorry, let me come back on camera. What if he comes out Monday night and he's like, "Look, I've been running myself to death. I injured my knee for you. You wanted a fighting champion, and still you cheer this other guy."
Mm-hmm.
And does a heel turn. Like we can turn a negative into a positive here if they think he could be ready for Mania. That's still though, that is cutting it real close with an injury like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think there's any way he can be 100%.
Yeah, I agree. It's unfortunate. I think the best thing to do is to keep him out of a wrestling match. So
for sure.
I mean, if he could take one bump, and lose the title, I personally look at it as, what if he gets Claymored and the Judgment Day jumps Drew? Damien pins him after a Claymore. Would that not add to Damien Priest and Drew McIntyre's feud? Like immediately that adds
that
to
would
it
be
because
great.
it's like my move's the one that put him down, and Damien's like, well, I'm the opportunist, and you weren't in the ring to get the pin. So it just like it makes perfect sense. Even if you have something crazy, like add some comedy to it. Like he hits the Claymore and he's about to hit the Claymore on Damien, but R-Truth saves Damien and
R-Truth eats it. Yeah.
No, like he spears Damien out of the way, gets him out of the way, and then the Claymore gets hit on Seth. He's out.
Okay.
And then Damien just covers Seth as like R-Truth attacks, like as Drew is like trying to get after Damien, and R-Truth like throws himself on, like gets him out of the way.
Just laying on him, yeah.
Yeah. Just one of those things, like we can have the title on Damien and then get the title to Drew McIntyre to give him his moment.
Yeah, Drew's just like flailing there on the mat, and then that just adds to how just absolutely pissed off he is.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
It would work so well, and then you can actually build the story so well with having Damien Priest get kicked out of the Judgment Day after WrestleMania. Like he loses the title, and now he's replaced by Drew McIntyre. Like Drew is the new member of the Judgment Day. He's the World Heavyweight Champion, and that they care more about the championship than they do about the person holding the title. And Drew, that's kind of his shtick. Like he agrees with that. Like it's all about the championship. Damien gets kicked out because he lost the title. It would just make a lot of sense.
Right. So the thing there is then we need to get the tag titles off of Damien and Finn as well if we're doing that.
Mm-hmm. Which I think that it was a really good idea. I mean, whether it's to DIY, whether it's to Awesome Truth, or I'm sure they could bring somebody up. It could be Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker. I forgot what their names are, like the Lone Wolves or something like that, or the
That'd
Wolf
be a good
Dogs
way to build him up slowly.
Yeah. They've been having some really good segments on on NXT recently. They are a match made in heaven. It works really well, and
Yeah.
it's a great way to get Braun Breaker to give some more character, which works
Hmm.
really well for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So the elephant in the room then that we need to talk about is the internet wrestling community's reaction to Samoa Joe versus Hook. So before we give our opinions of the match, Tyler, why don't you tell me what you thought of the match? What you thought of the story, how it was told?
To me, I kind of agreed with a lot of what you said. You made a TikTok video. It reminded me, the first thing I thought of was Undertaker versus Jeff Hardy,
Mhm.
where they have a match. Hardy gets a little offense in. Actually, Hardy got a lot of offense in that
Mhm.
match, though.
Yeah.
Um, and then ultimately, he proves his toughness, but the established star goes over, and that's kind of what we had here. The only difference is we didn't have Joe coming into the ring to raise his hand and put him over,
Mhm.
but we did have that from Hangman.
Yeah.
Um, which was good because originally I thought having at the end I was like, oh man, having Hangman and Swerve out there kind of takes away from Hook's moment there
Mhm.
of pulling himself up, showing the toughness, but then Hangman gives him the rub. So, um,
Yeah.
can I just ask, are Swerve Strickland and Damien Priest competing to see who can wear the most guy liner?
I have no idea. I mean, I have no idea. I appreciate what they do either way, but I just want to
Yeah,
make
they're
it
both
clear.
great.
I noticed that a lot of the comments about this match was about how much smaller Hook was than Samoa Joe. And I thought to myself, I was like, he's not even as small as the last world heavyweight champion. Like, why do people think Hook is so little? Like, what are they? The guy's like six
Well,
two,
he's skinny though.
but he's thick. He's not like a
Mm,
skinny. He's like he reminds me of like 1994 Shawn Michaels, like his body
right.
size.
Mm,
And people loved, like, now obviously HBK was like 8 years in the business at this point, so he was already like
mm, he
heading
was,
towards
yeah.
being the Michael Jordan of the sport. But it was just like when I look at Hook, I'm like, hey man, everybody needs like this moment. And that's why I thought of those matches, Spike Dudley versus Stone Cold. I don't know if you remember that match, but Stone Cold gave him a lot.
Yeah.
The Hurricane versus The Rock. These were matches that should have never happened. They happened. And the Hurricane actually won his match. All the
Yeah.
guys I mentioned lost, just like Hook, but the Hurricane actually won. And nobody was angry. Oh my god, the Hurricane beat the Rock. It was more like, man, the Hurricane beat the Rock. We're just in such an era of professional wrestling fans where I feel like everybody wants to find the negative in the sport. And I am probably the most negative AEW fan that's on a podcast. And even I enjoyed that match. I thought it was great. I loved it. I loved Samoa Joe overselling the clotheslines. I thought that made Hook look good. I thought the fact that Samoa Joe took an overhead T-bone, that looked great. I mean, he beat the crap out of Hook, man. He had to give him some offense, and he didn't give him a lot. He gave him 4 moves, and those 4 moves looked effective.
Yeah, he maximized his minutes exactly. I just think we're like I don't understand what people thought we were doing here. Like we're trying to
Mhm.
make a star,
Exactly.
or, and that's something that they've struggled to do. So now that they're trying to do it, like, what do you want? Like, what do you want?
That's exactly my point. We're about to go into a very serious storyline with the 3 men vying for the world championship. And we all know that the only way people are happy is if Swerve wins the title because that's where we're
Yeah,
headed.
and that's
So
where it needs to go.
exactly. Now, obviously, I expect Joe to lose it in a one-on-one set. Like, I don't believe that he will lose the triple threat match, but I believe he will lose it one-on-one to Swerve. Um, the one thing that I find very odd, though, is like I've seen so many people, and I really wanted to get your opinion on this because this one really like it kind of like it really bugged me, man. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I saw people actually make comments like JD from New York or people like that actually said
Well,
that. Yeah, he's really hot. He's in hot water right now for saying Hogan's not a racist or whatever. But so I saw a comment about Tyson Kidd, and the comment was that was the move that ended Tyson Kidd's career, and I'm supposed to believe that Hook can kick out at one. Sometimes I feel like wrestling fans just take it too far, man. Like you're talking
guys,
about the end of a man's career that was an accident.
right?
I
Like that's the
just
only time I've ever seen him hurt anyone with that move.
exactly. And that was my point. Like that move isn't more effective because it injured somebody. That actually makes it more dangerous. Like it's unfortunate that that's where we had to go and that's where people were thinking.
I mean, people have had serious injuries from all kinds of different moves. Like it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't make a move more
Yes.
impactful because it happened that he didn't. Something went wrong. Somebody slipped somehow,
Yeah.
and like friggin' Draws was paralyzed by a power bomb. People kick out of power bombs all the time.
Exactly. I mean, I just find it so odd that to disparage a match or disparage a move or because it doesn't fit what you believe should happen in professional wrestling, that your immediate response is to jump on the internet and to just attack the entire fan base, to attack the entire company, and then to evoke something that was such an accident that you know it sucks, man. Tyson Kidd was one of the best in-ring performers in the business at the time, and he was so sound and so technical, and that injury hurt him. I mean, we have matches in
Yeah.
NXT with him and you know, him and Sami Zayn or him and Cesaro. Like they're just beautiful matchups. He was such a good member of the Hart Foundation with Harry. I mean, it's unfortunate. I don't want Tyson Kidd to be remembered because of this injury. I want him to be remembered because of the fact that he's done that, or because he's producing all these women's matches that people love. All like now in professional wrestling, like a lot of people don't even know that it's him and Fit Finley that are producing all of these matches. That's a big deal. That's a very big
Right.
deal. You know,
Yeah,
it's
he's a big reason why women's wrestling is taken more seriously now, and they get to have these matches as opposed
Mhm.
to what we got in the early 2000s and early 2010s before, people like
Yeah,
that and some of the women that we have now are
yeah.
were around. So,
Yeah, it reminds me of my grandmother. When I was a kid, my grandmother believed that Hulk Hogan was the end all be all. And if
hmm,
anybody beat Hogan, it was a wrap. That guy was trash. Like, oh, I hate this guy. If anybody beat up Hogan, if anybody eye poked Hogan, if anybody back raked Hogan, it was like, oh, that guy's a piece of crap. Like, how could he do that to Hulk Hogan and stuff like that? And I just, whenever I see wrestling fans jump on the internet to complain about things like this, I immediately think that that's their mindset. Like they're being worked
right,
and they're being worked to the point where it's like, even you guys complaining about this is still great for Hook. And I just want to add to this. It was the highest rated like segment on all of Dynamite. So Hook draws.
right, and they did draw it. It was up 12% last week
Yeah. So Hook,
from
I
last
mean,
week.
it matters. People were interested. How is Samoa Joe going to work this match? Is he going to just beat
Mm-hmm.
this guy down quick? Is he going to give Hook a hook? You know what I mean? Because that's Hook's shtick is that he dominates people. So is he going to do that for them? Or is he going to sell for Hook? People were interested. It had people invested. Uh, Another match I want to talk about for AEW this week that I thought was very good was this impromptu rampage match between Darby Allin and Jeff Hardy. I mean, I watched a bunch of the highlights this morning and I thought to myself, this is a really sound match. And for all the people that say that Jeff can't jump anymore, he did a poetry in motion. He got a lot of hang time on it. I believe he just tripped over Matt. when he was doing that in the tag match a couple weeks ago, people thought like, oh, he's trash, he's over. Like Jeff Hardy's he has to be one of the most underrated workers I've ever seen. There are so many people that just immediately assume that he doesn't know how to wrestle, and it's so frustrating to me.
Right, and even if he was to be washed at this point, he still deserves the right to go out the way he feels necessary because he's contributed so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I
like,
agree.
I just hate that we've got to hate on everything.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And that's why I said, like, when I did that, like, 8-minute TikTok video, because I had a lot to get off my chest. And thank you to Hot Takes Wrestling for allowing me. He actually did comment on my TikTok and said, it's all yours. And for Ray for agreeing to let me use their ranting for a minute there. But I really did not like the discourse surrounding Hook and Samoa Joe. I'm a massive fan of Samoa Joe. I'm not going to tell you the story about why I love him so much. And Hook, like, I've never been a fan of his father. Never been one of those guys like who love Taz, like the beat me if you can, survive if I let you. I've never been a fan of his. But I appreciate what he meant to wrestling. I think that his son has the potential. Like, yeah, his son adds like 10, 15 more pounds, and everybody's going to be looking at him as world champion contender. You can tell he's very green in the ring, but he's youngster, man. What's he, like 22, 23? He has time to grow, to do better. Like, give him a chance, man. He's going out there getting his ass kicked, taking bumps, and he's working. And obviously,
On real glass.
yeah, and one of the things that I find very interesting is whenever somebody leaves a company, which there's been a lot of people walking away from AEW, some of these people are people that have been fed to Hook.
Mm-hmm.
No one is complaining about it. No one is
Right.
talking about it. Like, nobody's saying like, "Hey, man, I had to go out there and work this fucking kid who's so green." Like, nobody. I feel
So
like
you know what that tells? That tells me that he's like a humble kid behind the scenes, and he's appreciative of what he's getting, and he understands what he's doing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there are things to complain about in professional wrestling. Like I said it during that TikTok video. Like, Seth Rollins wins his match, and it's the same exact shit every single time he wins. It's a failed cash in. He gets his ass kicked. He hits the stomp. He wins. It's very, very like it's the same exact way the match ends every single time. That's something to complain about. Drew McIntyre in a world championship match, he's gonna lose. That's something to complain about. Christian and Adam Cole running the exact same storyline at the exact same time for the same exact company. That's something to complain about. But for you guys to just attack this young kid, like I feel like I don't know, maybe and I know this is going to annoy you with my comparison here. Maybe I'm just a little bit more lenient to something like this because I grew up with Derek Jeter. And I was able to watch Derek be like mildly bad in 95 and turn into an all-star, turn into a gold glove winner. Like New York fan base allowed Jeter to grow with us. And that's what I'm saying. Like, allow Hook to grow. You're not even giving him a chance. You want him to be perfect right away. Like, the difference between Hook and Dominic is the fact that Dom worked over 100 matches last year. He's working non-stop. The people in WWE know he needs to work non-stop so that way he can get to the level of his father. You know, God rest his soul. And then that piece of crap who wears the mask on him. You know what I mean? That calls himself his dad. He has to do that. So, are you okay?
I just drooled.
Okay. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, we have to give like this kid some time to breathe. But getting back to Jeff Hardy, I feel like Jeff is just treated like trash. Like, I don't understand what happened, but he was one of the most popular. You told the story all the time about you going to a house show and he was the most over guy.
Oh my god. The high pitched screams.
Yeah. I mean, dude, he still when he takes his shirt off, women still lose their minds. Even last night. Like when they showed that clip of the match, the cut up, they had to show the clip of him taking his shirt off just so we could hear the women freak out.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with like, okay, we've given you so many chances, and every time you've chosen to throw it away maybe. But he still contributed a ton to this business, like I said, and I think he deserves to be recognized for it.
Agreed. I agree with
It's
you.
funny you say that because I was watching one of those videos and it was like 10 things you can do to get a pop in wrestling, and one of them was remove an article of clothing, and they showed Jeff doing it.
Yeah.
Uh,
But he's given us some great moments. Like, we talk about that Undertaker match. Like, a lot of people are like,
mhm.
Taker gave him a lot, but that's what Taker was. Taker was giving. Anybody who doesn't believe me, go back and watch that YouTube clip of Cody Rhodes talking about his first Royal Rumble.
Right.
I
Mhm.
mean, that's what Undertaker did for the business. He let Maven eliminate him. He was one of the guys who he could have said, "I'm not me." Could somebody
Got him
else?
drunk first, but
Yeah, I mean, that's what
do you
happened.
know that
So
story?
no.
They wanted the blood to really flow, so he was like taking aspirin, and Maven was allergic, so they started shooting Jack, and
Oh.
Taker handled it a little better than Maven. And if you look, you can tell if you know and you look, you can tell that he's a little
Oh.
tipsy.
All right. But yeah. So moving on to a very special portion of professional wrestling, I wanted to talk about something. PWI gave out its awards this year for their best matches, their favorite wrestlers, all of this stuff. But the one that stuck out to me was the fact that match of the year, as voted by the people in PWI magazine, was Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania 39. And it had beat out other great matches like the triple threat match between Drew, Sheamus, and Gunther. It beat out other matches such as Roman versus Cody. It also beat out Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega too. I mean, I honestly don't know if that tag match was on the card on that list, but it looked like it was mostly one on one. But
Mm,
I think it's very we've got I'm so happy we're at a point in professional wrestling that we can finally admit that sometimes women's matches are better than men's matches. We don't have to look at them as like, oh, that's a separate category. The fact that they were in the category with the men and they beat the men, I think it's pretty special. We're in a special time in pro wrestling.
definitely. I mean, I don't think you can argue with it. As I said to you, I think it's certainly, I think match quality is subjective depending on what you like, but I think it's certainly one of the top 3 matches of the year for sure. And it just depends on what you like. I think it was definitely the best match of WrestleMania weekend, and possibly one of the best matches we've ever seen at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
it was virtually flawless.
yeah. Yeah, it really was. And me and Patty have talked about this separately. Being that we've actually like had that exact injury. We've both when you first start training in pro wrestling, it's very, very you can catch like the smallest injury that you don't see on a
Mm,
regular basis. We've both taken a face bump. We've both had the brush burn that Charlotte had just from taking a move the wrong way. It just
yeah.
happens. And you can see when the match started, it started very slowly. It was a technical match and they were feeling each other out. When she took that bump, the whole match changed. It was almost
Absolutely.
like she was angry. And I got to be honest with you, and I said this after WrestleMania week, and I wanted to state it again. I think that these women were angry. I really do. I think that in their minds they felt like they should have been the main event and they didn't get that, and I believe that they showed out, and here we are. We're coming out of it. This is also indicative of Roman Reigns and Cody too, because I feel like the only 2 matches that people talk about from that card is the triple threat match and this match.
Hmm.
There were so many great matches on night 1, but the only matches that people talk about from that entire WrestleMania is those 2 matches.
Right, because you had Logan Paul and Seth had a pretty good match. You had
Mhm.
Ray and Dom put on a good show. But yeah,
Yes.
I think here's what I think. I think they were done a disservice all along from the booking of that. Like they
Mhm.
had there was an angle like 2 or 3 weeks before Mania where they had the heat, it looked great, and then WWE just didn't follow up on it.
Yes.
So they were done a disservice from the jump, and that's probably why they weren't the main event. But it's not their fault. It's ultimately the writing team and whoever's booking it's fault, because they just were not given a story to sink their teeth into.
Agreed.
But boy, when they got out there,
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest with you. I I thought about this, and this is actually where I wanted to segue into our final topic to talk about Punk versus Seth here. But when I look at WrestleMania main events, right? Like, this was one of those things where I felt very strongly that because of what Rhea Ripley had accomplished at last year's Royal Rumble, I felt like she should have been given the main event at WrestleMania just based off that. It was such a special moment. No woman had ever done it. She lasted the longest, so she set a record. She also has the record for eliminations, and she was the first woman to win from number one. And what was great is that they replicated the 95 storyline, which we actually didn't talk about on the show. We never talked about, and I don't think me and you noticed until right now as I'm speaking, I realized they replicated the exact 95 scenario. It was 1 and 2 that were the last two. Just like Bulldog
was
and
it?
Sean. Yeah, Liv was number
Was it?
2.
Okay,
We
I
didn't even
know.
talk about that.
Yeah, I
It's not
didn't
like we
catch
run a
that.
podcast or anything.
Right, not long as we have a wrestling podcast.
Yeah,
The other
that's
thing that they replicated from '95 is that was the first time someone won from number one for the men, and it also did not main event.
yeah, which I get and I understand because that match had Lawrence Taylor. And it was like, all
Yes,
right,
you're
we're
right.
trying
I
to get,
understand
and
what
it
you're
was
saying.
one of those things. But when I looked at it, I was just like, I don't like I don't know. I just really felt strongly that Rhea, this would have been a great way to do her, like to get her in the right spot, to have her work Charlotte. And Charlotte has had the luxury of having a WrestleMania main event before. As a matter of fact,
Hmm.
3 of the 4 horsewomen have main evented WrestleMania before. And I really felt like this would have been a great way to put someone like her up. Like, she's already looked at as like the top female star in the world. Like, we this time last year, people were talking about Bianca Belair as like, will she be the GOAT? Like the way people talk about Patrick Mahomes right now, right? And
Yeah.
here we are, less than a year removed from SummerSlam, where Rhea Ripley just started upticking, just going ape shit. Where like now she's so special. Like she's like her run as world champion going into SummerSlam was not great. She had that one-off match with Zelina, which is a very special match. But other than
Mhm.
that, she didn't really have anything to sink her teeth into. And then since
Yeah.
SummerSlam, she's been in everything.
Yeah, she had the one good match on Raw with Natty.
Yes.
I think it was like July 4th or whatever. But beyond that, yeah, it had been underwhelming as a title run.
Hmm.
Her as a character is fantastic no matter what she does. But yeah,
Hmm.
the last few months she's just been killing it.
Yes.
And as far as, and you mentioned Bianca being talked about as one of the goats, like I just don't think she's done it long enough yet. I think she ultimately has the ability to be there.
Hmm.
Uh, she's great as long as she keeps doing what she's doing. We'll talk about her in that category eventually, but I just think like she's only been on the main roster for what, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah, so
true.
I
And
think you just need to be around a little longer,
mhm,
and then she will be in that conversation because she is tremendous in the ring
mhm.
and she can
Well,
talk.
yes, she can. Absolutely. And what I love it is that and I always use this quote. It's she decided she was going to be Steve Williams and just turned the volume up because Stone Cold Steve Austin said that. That's what made Stone
Hmm.
Cold so special. He was himself. He just turned the volume up. And that's exactly what Bianca does. You can tell this is who she is in real life. And she's like, I'm just going to go out there and be myself and just be a little bit more, flamboyant. Like, just let me go out there and be a little more entertaining. But that's what's great about her. That's why Montez Ford works with fans. That's why R-Truth works with fans. That's why people like Becky Lynch works, because you could tell this is who she is in real life. Now, there are people that could be super successful that are very mild mannered in real life. I mean, we've heard Roman Reigns is a very cool guy, but he's very calm in real life. He's not this type of character. Seth Rollins, we know, is kind of a nerd. He's a coffee nerd. He likes heavy metal music. He's gonna kind of just chill out. He's not really gonna be one of these guys like he is the wearing all these suits. This dude he wears the same gray jeans, the same Vans, the same backwards hat and black t-shirt all the time. Like that's just who he is in real life, So yeah, so speaking of Seth Rollins, do you think that the world title is needed for him and CM Punk to main event WrestleMania, or do you believe that their story going as far back as WWE backstage and then coming up to WrestleMania, do you believe that their story needs it, or do you think that without the world title, they're not main event worthy?
I would love for them to get the main event because I would love for Punk to get his WrestleMania main event, which I assume was something that was promised to him maybe when he decided to come back.
Yes.
But I do think that if the title is not involved, that the main event of night one should be Becky and Rhea.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. I know we talked about that last year, whether it would be Jimmy versus Jay, whether it would be Becky versus Rhea. But I just believe that Rhea's getting her main event at the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
And, I think that she's kind of been told, this is just like, I don't have any insider information or anything. I'm just kind of going off like a conversation I believe that's probably had with her. You're eventually going to get your WrestleMania main event. But this year, Punk versus Rollins is the story that everybody wants to see. And you can main event the show in your home country. And I think to her main eventing against Nia, or if they pull Becky versus Rhea early, like if they decide to do that early.
They could do that. They could do that early. You're right.
I think that to her probably means more because we've heard Zelina Vega talk about what it matters, like how much it matters to her that she had that match at Backlash, and she's really advocating for WWE 2K to have that gear in there. Well, go ahead.
Here's what you do. You have Rhea be the reason that Becky doesn't win the Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
Have Nia win it.
Yes, I believe Nia should win. That's my pick for the Rumble, but we'll talk about picks next week.
And then you have Becky challenges Rhea in her home country, and then that way you're not in that position where you're like, oh, do they have to main event or not? Because I don't. I just don't think Nia Jax is at a WrestleMania main event level at this time.
I disagree. I think she's a different wrestler than she ever was.
Do you think people would buy it as a WrestleMania main event, though?
Yeah, I don't know.
As far as a wrestler, she's improved and she's doing a really nice job, but I just don't know that she has the star power yet. I think she's got to build to that.
Okay. We'll talk more about that though next week because I want to touch on like our Royal Rumble. Like I want to talk about it before because we'll be doing a show on Saturday and Royal Rumble Saturday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably the plan.
I don't want to ruin from our show next week because we're definitely going to be talking about Rumbles. Guys, you need to tune in next week where we talk about Royal Rumble. We're both going to have our favorite Royal Rumble matches, and it doesn't need to be the Royal Rumble itself. So if there's a Royal Rumble match that you love, like let us know in the comments. We'll be talking about that. We'll be giving our picks for the night and letting you know everything. But being that Royal Rumble is one of the top like shows of the year, we're going to take that show's going to be a special show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Are you okay? Did you freeze?
All right. No, I was waiting to see what we want to talk about next.
Oh, no, I just I just wanted to kind of wrap there. I just wanted to talk about CM Punk and whether you thought that they should main event WrestleMania without the title. I genuinely believe. Go ahead.
I just think it's probably been promised to him, so I think that he has to be in the main event in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
I hope
I
it's with
definitely
Seth because
because of
sorry.
we don't know because of Seth's injury. That's absolutely correct. That could be the hard part. Um, what I find very upsetting, which I guess we'll find out more information on Monday, is we don't know what's going to happen with Seth. I am one of those people that I'm okay with him not working till WrestleMania. I
Mhm.
think that it'll just add heat, especially if Punk is like working his ass off. And then let's say he makes it to Mania and then he beats Seth at Mania. The added story there is that Seth is rusty. He couldn't beat him.
Right.
He
You
couldn't
couldn't
beat the
beat
Seth
me.
Rollins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a great story. It's an absolute banger of a story. They are providing us with great content now, obviously. I got to be honest with you, one of the like unsung heroes in professional wrestling recently, and I don't know if you've been paying attention to this, is Nick Aldis. He is really impressing me um with all of his talking on SmackDown and the way he treats Roman Reigns. I think the story is going to
I
get
love it.
him. And last night, we need to talk about that one clip last night because that to me was something that has not been threatened to Roman Reigns yet. He was forced to sign that contract because Nick Aldis was smarter. Because Paul Heyman thought, oh, I'm going to come out and I'm going to tell you he's not signing that contract. Because that was a story that was put in place. He's not signing that contract. Our lawyers didn't look at it. I didn't look at it yet. So we're just not going to sign it. And Aldis said, I have 3 signatures here. That's fine. These 3 can work. They can wrestle each other in a triple threat match for the vacant WWE Universal Championship. And it forced Roman to sign the contract. Like, Paul Heyman was upset. And it's what I loved about it was it's the first time in the 1,200-day reign of Roman Reigns that he has been threatened to be stripped of the championship. And that
Yeah.
to me that is something that I feel like could be a way to force Roman into more matches. Um, that is beautiful. I love that. I see
Yeah, I like
here
that.
that. Go ahead.
I like that. I like the segment where they were sitting down backstage. It was a few weeks ago, and Roman said something about he liked the way Adam Pearce did things, and Aldis said, "Well, he's more of a middle management. I'm more of an executive."
Mhm.
Like, just making it clear that he's not going to back down from him. Like, I'm not some little kid that you're going to push around. Not that Adam Pearce is either, because he's a decorated pro wrestler too.
Yeah.
But but I think everyone knows that Nick Aldis is a guy who's still probably in his prime, really.
Well, what I really love about it is that a lot of people in WWE, a lot of fans don't know who Nick Aldis is. And now he's showing himself with his swagger, with his style, with his character, with his promos. And the fans are starting to get enamored with him. So when we get to the professional wrestling and you realize that everything I just mentioned isn't even the best part of this man, like, this man is one of the best workers of the past like 15 years. And when they realize, oh, this guy was a world heavyweight champion at TNA. Oh, this guy was a world heavyweight champion at NWA. Oh, he's really that fucking good.
He
Like,
beat
I think,
Cody.
yeah, like I think when we get to that point, people are going to be so happy. And I think that that's what this is. This is a slow
Hmm.
build to bring him in as a wrestler. And when we get there, it's going to be great. Before we go, I just want to let people know that 1,238 days is the current reign of Roman Reigns. And he is 4th all time on the longest reigns in WWE history. With 1 being Bruno Sammartino with 2,803, 2 being Hogan with 1,474, 3 being Backlund with 1,470. And Roman is here. So we don't know what the plan is for pro wrestling. We don't know what the plan is for WWE, if they're going to continue to push or have him, be the world champion past WrestleMania. But if they decide that the streak means more, they need to tell the story a little bit better because right now, I think the way the story is being constituted right now, I think this could hurt Cody.
Yeah, I agree with you because, and I think I said it on Tuesday, like, we're not as patient as we were, because I know Fernando, his thing is, well, his dad, had to do it 3 times. But in this age where we have the internet, and as we talked about earlier in the show, the internet community is so toxic. I just think at some point we're going to lose our patience and we're not going to buy it anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of how.
So
I
feel if he's going to lose to Roman at Mania, then don't even do the match. Mm-hmm. Do Roman versus Rock.
Yeah. I
have Cody wrestle Randy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's any world where they double switch them?
Not at the moment, no. Because I don't think right now they haven't done enough work for Roman to be believable as a babyface. He's just too good a heel right now.
Yeah, because I could just see Cody being frustrated and like he's like, all right, and he comes out and he talks about his dad, like, well, the American dream isn't what my dad would be sick at what he sees, so I'm going to show you the American nightmare.
Yeah, but, I think that would work. That would be good. I just don't know how we get Roman to a babyface. That's the problem.
Yeah, because I know that was at one point the plan, was to make Roman a babyface, but you're right. At this point, it's kind of, he's just not very likable.
Yeah, I mean, he's
like the way
really
he
cool.
treats his family.
Yeah.
He's like he's exactly that. He's like the cool kid in high school who's got like his minions, and that's his family.
Agreed.
The one thing they could have done when they were first talking about it, like last year, was to have the whole bloodline turn on him, including Heyman. But we're past that now because Jay's already out, and it's not as impactful with just the 2 of them, I don't think. So yeah, it's just an idea that I've had. I just think with that American Nightmare name, he could use it to become a top heel. But then, I mean, because there are a lot of, although Drew's kind of turning that way. I was gonna say, at one point we did have a lot of baby faces on Raw.
Yeah,
and we still kind of do.
I mean, but it works really well. I like your stories there. I think we should definitely think about it there. We should come up with something a little bit better. Like come up with something like maybe we can actually like book this into existence. Who knows? But yeah, guys, that's pretty much our show this week. We just did a pretty normal, just 45 minutes for you, just going talking about certain things in pro wrestling. Not every week is going to be super full and impactful. The next week is going to be a big one.
And before we go, I do want to, we talked about it before the show, I do want to mention, I think it's great that the WWE is actually doing something with their women's tag titles this week, where they had Indy and Candice team up on Raw, and they're going for the titles, and Chelsea and Piper still want them, and now the Kabuki Warriors look like they're going to get a shot, and they defended, Carter and Chance defended last night against was it Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, right? Yeah. And they had a pretty good match. It wasn't very long, but I thought it was pretty good. So it's nice to see some stories there and it actually being used. There's a ton of talent there. They just need to build these women.
Agreed. I think the class of the tag division right now, until the Kabuki Warriors are back on top at the moment, is definitely Chelsea and Piper. They are just a class of the division. Chelsea is one of those special superstars that I feel like they would make a huge mistake if she didn't win the Money in the Bank this year. But that's just my personal opinion. I feel like that is a self-made woman. She has made herself in every company she's worked in. She is one of the best in-ring performers in the company. Piper as well.
She can work, she can talk.
Yeah, agreed. And what I love about it is it shined Piper Niven. We actually see her in such a great light. We see so much more character work from her. We don't have to see this stupid dewdrop gimmick.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of that, why don't we wrap with this? Your thoughts on the return of the Bruiserweight last night?
Oh my
Pete
God!
Dunne.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah. This is actually something that Patty
Yes.
Rican does not like. He's actually not a fan of people going back to their original names. He thinks people should be able to make themselves separately. So I'm very curious as to what he has to say on Tuesday when we do Work in the Marks. But
Well, they gave him a pretty stupid gimmick to try to make himself with.
agreed. And I did see this really great tweet by a random wrestling fan where it said, if you don't think a name in professional wrestling can matter, just look at the entrance for Pete Dunne because he looked like a fucking star when he came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, I was like, wow. I mean, I can't disagree. When he came out, when he did the whole like mouthpiece and he had the fists up against his face like he normally does, like the whole bruiserweight stuff. I mean, he went back to wrestling classic William Regal, Marty Scurll. Like he looked like one of those. Like I don't mean to evoke Marty's name here, but
Sorry.
that's the
Involuntary
style
shivering.
of work that he does. So, but on that note, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on Must Love Wrestling. Please like, subscribe, share our show. The best way to get us out there is word of mouth. Let us know. All of our shows get converted to audio form thanks to our producer D. So if you like listening to our stuff, we do realize we have a decent fan base over there on Spreaker for Apple Podcasts and for Spotify. So please just let people know. Sometimes, we'd love to have conversations with you guys too. Jump into the chats, leave us questions and comments. Our last video had almost 700 views. That is one of the most special videos we've done, talking about Eric Bischoff and Tony Khan. So we will try to do more controversial takes like that as well. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us.
Yeah. If you want to see us yell at each other, then just
Yeah.
just wait.
Yeah, just wait. All right, guys, we're out.
Out.